It's The World This Week, 7 days, 4 Paris-based correspondents, 1 hour. The World This Week, in partnership with the Daily Beast. Christopher Dickey, foreign editor, joins us. How are you, sir?
Happy to be here, as ever.
Happy to welcome you. Happy to welcome Luke Baker, Paris bureau chief for the Reuters news agency. How are you, sir?
Very well, Francois.
Gil Mihaly, columnist at the Israeli newspaper Yediot Aharonot, co-founder of digital news magazine Causeur.
Good evening.
Nice to see you. And France24.com's Lila Jacinto, who is out reporting in Beirut. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. The World This Week on Facebook and Twitter, hashtag World This Week. Malaysia kicking out the party in power for the first time since independence. Italy edging closer to an unprecedented populist coalition. The Eurovision Song Contest. Those stories swept aside with one stroke of the pen this week by Donald Trump's decision to walk away from the Iran nuclear deal. That was followed by direct confrontation between Israel and Iran and Syria, and all comes ahead of next Monday's decision by Trump to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, the date chosen to coincide with the 70th anniversary of Israel. In the build-up, we've witnessed another Friday of protest at Israel's border with Gaza, which brings us to the essential question. With all that's going on, can Israel afford to stick with the status quo when it comes to the Palestinians? A status quo that hasn't budged since the Oslo Accords. That was a quarter century ago. And with no peace talks in sight, what does that status quo look like? France 24's James Andre went to find out in this exclusive report.
مين بحب يروح يشتغل في اسرائيل؟ واحنا هان في شركه العمال بالذات ما حدا بيلتفت لنا. مع انه عماد الاقتصاد الفلسطيني العمل في اسرائيل للاسف صار احوجنا هزيه، ما عندنا اقتصاد وطني. ما عندنا ميه للزراعه. ما عندنا تسويق للزراعه. مين سائل في هذا الشعب؟ يعطونا ميه، يفتحوا لنا اسواق. ليش كل البضاعه الاسرائيليه معبيه اسواق الضفه؟ مين مفكر فينا في كل سواء اسرائيل او فلسطين؟ وفر لي فرص عمل في داخل الضفه الغربيه بنص القيمه وريحني من هذا الارهاق.
شايفها بالشابط على هالمعبر زي الكرود، ولا حدا مسلج ولا حدا مسوي شيء، زي ما انت شايفه. اعلنا اضراب امبارح ولا واحد استجاب فيه، لأن الشعب ماشي الخرا والشعب ماشي الزفت. يعني اللي بده يعطل عن 300 شيكل انه بده يعطل، واجينا بدنا نشتري تسريح ب 2500 شيكل محترم، وانه بده يدفع 2500 شيكل.
يعني من نص ساعة لساعتين، حسب كيف الجندي جوا في الغرفة. في ناس سافت وفي ناس ماتت على المعبر. يعني يوم هذا الحكي مع كل واحد معرض له.
شو شايف انت؟ شو شايف بعينيك؟ شو شايف؟ شو شايف بعينيك؟
وكثير متعبة شغلة المحسوم، بتعرفي نلزع بعض، وناس بيتعبوا وناس على صدرهم، في مرات عمال بيموتوا على المحسوم. عشان هيك يعني هي كلها أصلا صعبة. وإذا وقف التسريح بقعد 3-4 أشهر ما بفيش تسريح. يعني نفسنا نبني على ظهر الدار تكون غرف أكثر للأولاد. إن شاء الله ربنا بيحسن الأحوال.
بس ممنوع إذا بتقدروا.
إذا على ظهر البيت بنقدر نغامر، مع إنها منطقة سيمة ممنوع البناء.
نغم كيف حالك؟ شو أخبارك؟
معي عهد أنا. خلينا نسوي إيش؟
مش عارف إذا حكوا مع التربية ولا.
بدك تطلعي عند المصاحب. بس يجيبوا لي خلاص
رتبي أمورك.
يلا مسافات رابع يلا مسافات لا
أشرقت خيوط الشمس الذهبية على أرض فلسطين الغالية. صباح الخير يا وطني، صباح الخير يا أرضا عشقناها مدى الزمن. تحية فلسطين، تحية فلسطين حرة.
4 ضرب 2 شو بعني؟ شو بكررها؟ شو بكررها؟ مكررة 4 مرات 2 زائد 2 زائد 2 يساوي ايش؟
8.
طيب ليش تحدي 5؟
تحدي 5 لأنه في عنا سابق لإلها 4 بنفس الوضع. 4 مدارس موجودة بجانب مستوطنات مهددة بالهدم، كل مرة لما بتبنى بتهدم. الطلاب من بداية هم عارفين هي المنطقة اللي هم فيها هي مهددة بكاملها، جبلية بكاملها مهددة بالخطر. لأن بالنسبة للمدرسة إحنا في عنا جبل الفرديس معروف كتير، ورا جبل الفرديس في عنا مستوطنة. هاي المستوطنة هي اللي مأثرة كتير على المدرسة لأنه بفكروا إنه يعملوها امتداد لمستوطنة معالي أدوميم. هناك على المدخل. اسرع يلا حسن خلص يلا. محمد مجيب اليوم برضه تأخرت صح؟ يلا حسن سكر المي مظبوط. غسل تمك حسن، تمك مش مغسل. عندنا ساحة الطلاب هذه اللي طبعاً كلها خطر في خطر، أنا بعرف هذا الشيء لأنه هاي لا تعتبر ساحة، لكن بنأمل إن شاء الله إنه إحنا نقدر إن نسفلتها. طبعاً ممنوع أحط سور، ممنوع أحط زفة الأرض، ممنوع أدخل أي آلية إنها تشتغل معاي هون، لأنه أي آلية بدها تدخل راح يصدروها على طول. ممنوع أسكر المدرسة، أحط السياج. حتى لو أي إشي وقع على سطح، ممنوع أحط سلم أطلع فوق السطح، ما بقدر. عندنا مشكلة السقف اللي هي معروف يعني بالمطر بتدلف وهيك، ولكن بنحاول جاهدين إحنا إنه إحنا نسيطر على الوضع. هو هذا التحدي، هي اسمها التحدي هيك، يعني لو كانت مدرسة ومبنية صح ما بزبط.
الكوفية يا سلمى رمز وطني لنضال الشعب الفلسطيني، لبسها القائد الراحل أبو عمار بشكل دائم كما لبسها أجدادنا، لأنها رمز الرجولة والأناقة.
تفضل يا محمد، ابتدينا الكوفية الفلسطينية. تفضل. هلا الآن محمد سوف يعلمكم كيف لا الرأس. كيف نرتدي الكوفية الفلسطينية؟ كيف كان الزعيم الراحل ياسر عرفات يلبس الكوفية الفلسطينية؟ بالطريقة هاي الرئيس الراحل أبو عمار كان يلبس الكوفية الفلسطينية بالطريقة هاي. أحسنتم أحسنتم أحسنتم. هل تذكرون القائد الشهيد الراحل ياسر عرفات؟
نعم.
هل تذكرونه؟ نعم يا محمد. تشهد القائد الراحل ياسر عرفات. طيب إيش عمل لفلسطين؟ ماذا عمل لفلسطين؟ ماذا عمل لفلسطين؟ عباس.
اجتمعوا هو كم زلمة واتفقوا انهم يحموا دولة فلسطين وما يعطوها رجوع.
ايوه، كان يدافع عن الدولة الفلسطينية. نعم احسنتم.
مهما كان بلدك راح البلد ما بقدر يتخلى عنها. حتى لو أنها مضايقة علينا. أنا واليهود مرادسة، زرعت زيتونات قبل 35 سنة 37 سنة، هاي ما بوصلهنش والله. بروح أسرقهن سرقة بس هي المهم مصالح من المستوطنين. شو نسوي؟ وبرضه نصالح برضه نصالح. زي الحيوان عارف انه مش سبحان الله مش عارف.
Yeah, look at this.
These are
solar
amazing
panels.
solar panels. So these solar panels were installed and then they were confiscated by the army. And because it was funded by the EU, a lot of international governments complained. One in particular, I don't know. Anyway, and they eventually returned them, and it's never happened before.
So these are like
quite amazing.
The solar panels of
like
the cats of solar panels, the ones with the 9 lives.
Miraculous solar panels.
Yes.
اليوم جينا على هون كجزء من توطيد العلاقة ما بين مؤسسة هيرن وما بين جب الديب. العلاقة يعني قديمة، بنقوم بمساعدة القرية بتعزيز صمودها. بيميز هاي القرية عن غيرها إن هي يتم إدارتها إن صح التعبير من قبل نساء. شوية شباب لأنها بمنطقة C++ زي ما حكينا، يعني لا يسمح لك بالبناء، لا يسمح لك بالتطور. ممكن يجي المستوطنين واليهود في أي وقت ويقتحموا ويعملوا اللي بدهم إياه. الحياة صعبة، في كتير محددات restrictions للحركة كمان، وهم في مستوطنات قريبة وبالتالي هم مراقبين أي شيء بصير عملهم بيجوا بشيل الموجود. مع أنه نحن بنحكي عن قرية بسيطة، عدد سكانها بسيط، ناسها بسيطين، يعني هي لا تؤثر على أي حد في العالم كله، لكن يعني أنا بدي أقول إنه هذا احتلال، والاحتلال يعني هذه طبيعة عمله.
بعدين الطاقات الشمسية بهيك بزبط معها الجو
بالضبط. هلا بدها تشتغل كويسة.
هي بتشتغل الحمد لله كويس، بس هيك عطاها أحسن.
أكيد أكيد.
يعني
هلا بتخدم مين؟
بتخدم كل القرية
ما شاء الله.
إن شاء الله. يعني في موافقة
في
كمان.
في ثلاجات عندكم مثلا؟
طبعا أكيد ثلاجة، بس بقت القرية لها 50 سنة بدون كهرباء.
الحمد لله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين.
ممتاز ممتاز.
طبعا هذا كله بجهود المرأة.
كل احترام.
طبعا نساء جب ذيب
ما شاء الله عنكم معروفات.
سيدات جب ذيب
ما شاء الله.
يعني هم اللي انجزوا هذا الانجاز في القريه.
كل احترام.
وشو كان ناقص على القريه حاولنا نحصله، سوبر ماركت، مكتبه، مخيطه.
ممتاز.
الحمد لله، وان شاء الله تصير تحسن اكثر من الامام للامام.
الله يعطيك العافيه.
الله يعافيك.
شكرا.
اهلا وسهلا فيك.
وبنشوفكم ان شاء الله، بنضل على تواصل مع بعض.
ان شاء الله شيء اكيد.
لا زياراتنا لازم تزيد، بنفعش
ان شاء الله.
بتفرجي الناس بتذكرهم انه كيف انه يعني كان بامكانهم اللي 42 كيلو يركضوا للخليل ويرجعوا عشان يعملوا نفس المسافه بدل ما انه يركضوا مرتين بس لانه احنا بسبب الحواجز بسبب كل يعني المشاكل الموجوده اللي بتمنعنا انه فعليا نركض للخليل ونرجع.
سبعين سنة إلي بقى، لكن أمانة الله إنه أملي أرجع. أمانة الله إنه أملي أرجع. وكنت لو برجع شهر وأهلي بيرجعوا جميع الناس وأموت من بهمش، المهم إني أرجع. المهم العودة. والله المخيم ما بعني لي ولا شغله، والله المخيم كله ما هو يعني شيء يعني كنت مش مرضي عنه.
شو يعني تكون بالمخيم كل فخر واعتزاز؟ شو كمان؟
خيامات مناطق سي مع اليهود طبعا، عشان هيك الاحتلال حاطط ضدنا. طبعا الحجار ما بفيدش شيء، الحجار بس يعني الشباب تبقى زهقانه بتطلع بتراضي. بس طبعا هي يعني انها بتقدم للوطن وبتقدم شغلات كثيره، بس سلاحها وحجرها بس، يعني ما فيش شيء تقاوم فيه غير الحجر. لما يجوا الجيش بينزلوا على المخيم بدنا نقاوم، احنا نوقف ضدهم، فيش الا بس الحجر، بنقاوم قديش بنقدر.
انت نازل على المظاهره يوم الجمعه؟
ان شاء الله.
وين بتنزل؟ على بيت ايل؟
على بيت ايل قلنا نروح.
بلش يلعب معي في النار، العب. هاي بس يمه ولا ايش فيك تفصلها.
حي على الفلاح. الأرض إلى أين؟ منذ 20 أو 25 عام منذ توقيع اتفاقية أوسلو حتى اليوم تضاعف عدد المستوطنين الذين يقطنون الضفة الغربية 7 أضعاف. لا يمكن أن يكون هناك قيام لكيان فلسطيني متماسك الأطراف المتواصل جغرافيا. هذا يعني زمان انتهينا منه. الآن الأمور أحبابنا كتل استيطانية سرطانية حقيقة. ماذا تفعل؟ تقسم المدن الفلسطينية، تقسم شمال الضفة عن جنوب الضفة عن وسط الضفة الغربية. كيف نخلي الناس تثبت في أرضها؟ مجرد وجودك في هذه الأرض، مجرد وجودك، ذهابك إلى جامعتك، إلى مدرستك، إلى عملك، إلى متجرك، هو في هذه المرحلة يعني إنجاز كبير.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تدعوكم القوى الوطنية والإسلامية الآن في مسيرة من باب جامع حمزة إلى بيت إيد. قولوا لرئيس الأركان، قولوا لرئيس
Yeah, and that report was shot for the France 24 investigative news magazine. Reporters were talking about it in a special edition of The World This Week ahead of the 70th anniversary of the founding of the State of Israel for the Palestinians. That's the Nakba, the catastrophe. And we ended on those images, Gil Mihaly, of the signing of the Oslo Accords in that museum. Just to remind our viewers, a lot of what we saw in that report is the way that the Palestinian territories were carved up. It was supposed to be a temporary solution after those Oslo Accords. Zone C, where most of we saw that report, that's the area where it's administered and patrolled by the Israelis. Your thoughts on what struck you when you watched that report and you look at this anniversary that's coming up?
Well, there are two anniversaries. The 70th anniversary of Israel, and I think coming September will be the 25th anniversary of the Oslo Accords. I think that there was an opportunity, and the opportunity was missed. The situation today is that, judging from the results of the recent Israeli elections, 2 or 3 campaigns back, there's no majority for a negotiated solution with the Palestinians. For the majority of the Israeli electorate, the last time Israel tried something sincerely in 2005, the withdrawal from Gaza, proved to be a mistake. And the fact that what's recently happening on the Israeli-Gaza border under the flag of the return is not to calm the Israeli suspicion that they want everything and not just half of it. And the even more recent remarks, stupid anti-Semitic remarks of Mahmoud Abbas I don't understand why he did that, but it's not very reassuring. So the political situation today is Israelis don't believe anymore in a negotiated solution, and it's quite comfortable. The security situation is bearable. The economy is doing well. There is quite a functional welfare state, and so nothing really pushes the Israeli public opinion to change its views.
Luke Baker, as a former Jerusalem correspondent, what struck you when you watched that report?
I think really what it says to me is that when you look at, we're talking about an anniversary of 70 years, whatever time frame you cut it, you slice and dice it over, Israel is really looking in a very comfortable and strong position. It's there's no Palestinian state. It controls 60% of the West Bank. That area C you talk about is about 60% of the territory of the West Bank. The Palestinians' economy is extremely dependent. Well, it struggles anyway, but I mean, around almost 100,000 Palestinians try to leave the West Bank to enter Israel each day to work, and that's what we saw at the beginning of that film. You see how much the economy is both dependent and being strangled by the Swiss cheese creation that you have there on the map. You've got a leader, as Gil said, who is no longer has the confidence of the people, who can come out with anti-Semitic comments, who really doesn't have a sense of where he's taking the country. Now, you can say that that's also obviously a part of an occupation since '67, and the problems that have come from that. But what it really says to me is that was a film very much made from a Palestinian point of view, showing a narrative of all the struggles they have every day, and it shows you the intense penury that people are living in and the intense difficulty they will have to get the type of political representation to make a real legitimate engagement with Israel. But on the other hand, Israel has no real desire to engage. As Gil said, the status quo as it stands has favored Israel at every step, and in recent years that's only been strengthened. And since Trump has come into office, it's only really the cards have been ever more stacked in Israel's favor.
Christopher Dickey?
Well, the Palestinians don't really have any tools at all to work with. They don't have economic tools. They've basically forsworn violence. You see the rock throwing. There was a little bit about that in the film. But terrorism is not a major threat for Israelis now, or at least they don't feel it. They don't sense it the way they did in, say, 2002 or other times. We're looking at a regional war possibly with Iran, but that won't help the Palestinians very much. So in fact, the Palestinians have nothing to work with. Before, they at least had a diplomatic framework to work with, but that has gradually been whittled away. Nobody in America, at least no administration, certainly not the administration of Donald Trump, talks about returning to the '67 borders. There's no moral suasion, there's no political, there's no diplomatic, there's no economic, and there's no military or terrorist tool that is being used or can be used to change the complacency of Israel that Gil and Luke are talking about. So they're screwed, actually. I mean, that's the bottom line.
And to add a certain, insult to injury, if you like, the United States will recognize, or has already recognized, Jerusalem as Israel's capital, and that will, the day before...
West Jerusalem, yeah.
West Jerusalem, yes, exactly. And so, U.S. dignitaries will be in Jerusalem to recognize the movement of the embassy to Jerusalem. Who knows if other countries will follow, but that's a real sort of thumb in the eye, if you like, to the Palestinians the day before they recognize or they mark the Nakba, which they call the catastrophe, the day after Israel's founding.
But, I wrote something about this when that was announced. You can't kill a peace process that's already dead. And it's been dead for a while. I mean, would you disagree with that, Gil?
Yes, I mean...
Yes, you would disagree?
I fully agree, and we have to look at it from the point of view of the public opinions, because we need to create a legitimacy for a solution. And what happened since the Oslo agreements, there was the mounting power of Hamas with the devastating suicide attacks in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem during the 90s, and then the second Intifada after Camp David, and then the withdrawal from Gaza, which gave considerable hope, knowing that it came from the right. It was Ariel Sharon, the architect of the colonies, and that colonies were dismantled. And even though it was not directly negotiated with the Palestinians, there was real hope that it will create trust, and it didn't. So today we have, the problem is there's a bankruptcy of trust.
I mean, the thing about this year is really we're looking at 70 years of the Israeli state, 25 years of the Oslo Accords, but essentially the death of the Oslo Accords, because with this move of the Israeli embassy into Jerusalem, you're killing, in fact, a fundamental feature of the Oslo Accord, which was Jerusalem as East Jerusalem as a capital of a Palestinian state. So in effect, it's the death of the two-state solution. The Palestinians, after this move by Trump, the U.S., whatever kind of broker it was always pro-Israeli, but was seen as at least a broker that could manage to get something done. That's just, there's no table anymore. So the Palestinians are not going to be part of the peace process. There is no peace process.
And you were saying earlier, Gil, how Israelis right now can live with this, can block it out, what's going on. On the hashtag F24 debate, one reaction from a viewer: the occupation will destroy Israel by making a Palestinian state impossible. By annexing the territories, Israel will inherit millions of Palestinians. Equal rights means an end to the Jewish state, because you cannot have a Jewish state if the majority are not Jewish. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. But again, from the point of view of the Israeli public opinion, the millions of Israelis that vote every 3 or 4 years. First of all, they don't see an alternative. So when there's no alternative, there's no choice. They really believe that withdrawing from territories, unless you have a partner like Egypt or like Jordan, doesn't get you what you want. It didn't get Israel the quiet it sought in Lebanon, because even though the United Nations declared that Israel withdraw behind the line, Hezbollah continues to claim that he's fighting for the liberation of Lebanese territories. In Gaza, the opportunity, which was not perfect, was not used in order to create a positive momentum. It was the contrary. So, you know, people that vote, they are not professors of political science. And things are very, you know, very basic for them. And if you add other questions, why don't we have a Palestinian state from 49? Why aren't we celebrating the 69th anniversary of Palestine? It was occupied by Egypt and Jordan. Why didn't they do anything before 67? I mean, there are so many questions. And if you could send a team from France 27 to En el-Khilwa, near Saida in Lebanon, you'll have the same film. And they're in a Lebanese country. There's no Israeli occupation. You'll find distress, despair, people struggling to make a living. So there is a general situation where Israel is only one of the actors, but it's the only accused.
All right, another comment on the hashtag F24 debate. Israel wants the Palestinians to have their own state, and the Palestinians have a long history of refusing every offer of compromise. If they keep this up, eventually there won't be any such Palestinian identity left, and this will happen long before Israel ceases to be Jewish. I want to ask you, Christopher Dickey, about the timing of all of this. The way events have unfolded within the last 7-day time period, having the President of the United States walking away from the Iran deal, and then on the day where Israel celebrates its 70th anniversary is the day where you have the ceremony for moving the embassy. Why pack it all into 1 week?
Well, originally it wasn't going to be packed all into 1 week, but I think they just decided in Washington that they could probably do it after Trump had made the announcement. I mean, if you want to go back to timing, the question is, why did Trump announce in December that he was going to move the embassy to Jerusalem? Why did he do that? There was no pressing reason. There was no urgent case to be made for that. There was not even a diplomatic case to be made for that at the time. He did it because he wanted to keep another of his campaign promises. And what we have seen with Trump again and again is that he made promises that from a geopolitical point of view, from a diplomatic point of view, were insane when he was running for the presidency, including to tear up the nuclear agreement with Iran. It makes no sense at all to tear up the nuclear agreement with Iran. You can say it's a bad agreement, but it is something you have in your hand. It's not something that you're going to strive for in the future.
And on Thursday night at a rally, he called for the continued enforcement of that agreement, even though the United States is walking away. Why?
That he did that at a rally is indicative of the way he does conduct statecraft. He goes in front of audiences where people are wearing Make America Great Again hats, and he says whatever he wants, and they cheer, and they say it's wonderful. And not only is he guiding them, he's being guided by them. He knows what they respond to. And unfortunately, in international affairs, trying to make peace in the Middle East, that doesn't work out very well. But that's what he's doing.
Taking it forward from now, what is actually critical is how Europe manages to respond to this.
Right.
You know, whether this deal is absolutely completely dead, regardless of whether Iran will, of course, accept it. And
is it a seminal moment for Europe?
It is. I do hope that Europe manages to show some teeth. I doubt it, actually, although Europe did manage to circumvent the sanctions on Cuba. But what strikes me is how, this was a deal on the nuclear issue. And even Macron, who, went to the US, before going to the US saying there's no plan B, and then started adding annexes and, talking about the ballistic missiles, that's a different issue. So now this even Europe has started watering down on this deal that was there. I mean, we had a deal on that.
All right, on that point, I want to get your reaction, Luc Baker, to what the French finance minister said this Friday. Bruno Le Maire saying it is time for European companies to, quote, stop playing by American rules.
Je souhaite que nous affirmions la souveraineté économique.
I would like to see the sovereignty of Europe's economy affirmed, its capacity to defend its own economic interests regardless of the decisions made by major economic partners like the United States. This means the reinforcement of the rules of 1996, which need to be completed and toughened up.
Qui doit être complété et qui doit être renforcé.
Well, look, Bruno Le Maire will sit down with some of the leaders, some of the heads of the largest French corporations that have interests in Iran in the coming days, probably over the weekend, with Total, with Renault, with Peugeot, with Sanofi, others, to try to sort of, give some guidance on how much support the French state can possibly give, what the shape of the legal sort of framework in which they'd be working. But
and then
frankly,
he's going to sit down with
he's going to sit down on
his
Tuesday,
British and German counterparts,
and then meet with Zarif in Brussels on Tuesday. All of this effectively to try to sort of work out a game plan. How can we both encourage the companies that have invested a huge amount of money since the sanctions were lifted 2015 and really and have building up businesses in Iran can be protected against the threat of American sanctions. Really what the American sanctions threat does is create a threat. It creates a cloud of kind of uncertainty. Do you risk going to continue to do business in Iran with the threat that your businesses or any ties you may have in the United States are going to be ruined? Is the worth of your business in the States, is it worth more? And the chances are that it is. And I think that the likelihood is that European businesses will be too afraid to pursue their business interests in Iran and will slowly unwind. They've got 6 months to do it, 3 months for the lesser, but 6 months really. They may try and seek some waivers, some carve-outs. But frankly, I would be surprised if in a couple of years' time there's still the same level of investment by major European companies in Iran. Well,
there won't be European companies, but certainly China, Russia, India just cut a deal with Iran to build a major port, which was done, the transaction was done entirely in Indian rupees. So Europe's loss is going to be China and Asia's gain, because after this deal, even if the US starts putting in sanctions, they're not just going to, the other parties are not going to accept it.
Well, we're seeing reports of Chinese deals also being affected and the such. In a way, we can complain about what Donald Trump has done, but it sounds, listening to Luc Baker, that he's going to get away with it.
What's he getting away with? I mean, he's putting pressure on Iran, but is it going to change their behavior? Is he going to intimidate them to such an extent that they'll give up a nuclear program that they froze, they didn't eliminate? We're now effectively going to bring back from 2025 to pretty much the present the moment at which they start reprocessing uranium. Yeah. And that's, of course, what Trump was talking about. You better stick to the agreement, even though I'm getting out of the agreement, because if you don't, I'm really going to punish you. Well, how's he really going to punish them? I mean, I think, where all this leads eventually is to a military confrontation. And I think as we get closer to that, Trump is going to be hard-pressed to justify a third war in the Muslim world when there are still two going on that haven't been completed.
And not just that, I mean, it'll be such an asymmetrical military battle that Iran will, of course, resort to, a sort of asymmetrical war, which will be playing up in Afghanistan, playing across the border in Iraq. Iran is very adept at that.
If it becomes a conventional war, then the thing to remember is the phrase strategic depth. Iran has a lot of it. It's a much tougher battlefield even than Iraq was.
Two things. Zarif already said today that we'll resume enrichment. So, the very thing that the Iran nuclear deal was supposed to prevent and kick off, semi-indefinitely is already going to resume. That's what he says. Let's see. But really, we're at a moment clé where if it's really the case that the United States and Israel and to an extent Saudi have to be prepared for what Christopher said, for war. And if they're going to do that, we're talking about a very...
And the first country that will be hit will be Saudi Arabia.
Gil Mihaly, how do you interpret the Iranian muted response since Israel had a direct confrontation twice this week with Iranian positions inside of Syria?
the Iranian position in Syria is very complicated. They have a very low-cost operation there. They don't have the best men there. They have militias. They have poorly trained and poorly armed people that they are sending to fight Israel on their name.
Afghans.
And Afghans and Iraqis and all kinds of Shiites, poor Shiites that signed, you know, like the British Army used to recruit in the pubs. They are sent there to do the dirty job, and they are not doing it very well. They don't have air cover. They don't have anti-aircraft capabilities. They don't have satellites. So they, on the other hand, they are ruthless. Remember what they did to the French in the 80s. They kept going after them until the French asked themselves who might get us out of problem, and they went to the Iranians and said, yes, you owe us some money on the uranium, on the Eurodif, on the uranium, and we think that you are helping the Iraqis. So if you deal with that, you don't have an hostage problem. So the Iranians will back up, and then they will continue because they can suffer losses, they can suffer failures, and they will come back again, and they will come back again, and they will try to negotiate their capacity to harm, just like the Syrians, just like all these countries.
It's completely subjective. They'll do exactly what countries do with this asymmetrical kind of war. They'll use terrorism, they'll use hostage taking, they'll use all these things that they've always done.
They blew up the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires. They will probably do such things until...
And then they will present themselves as interested parties who can help you solve your problem.
Exactly.
Which they are.
Just the way the North Koreans said, we're going to help you free these 3 Americans that we took hostage.
And
of course we thank the North Koreans.
And for the time being...
Just very briefly, because we're out of time here.
Okay. I'm not sure that the Russians are crying over Iran being weaker in Syria, and I don't think that Assad is shedding tears, because both of them would like to see the Iranians out.
All right, so much more to say. We're going to have to leave it there. I want to thank Gil Mihaly, Christopher Dickey, Luke Baker, Leila Jacinto. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of The World This Week.